God, improvise. Right, I'll say it again. If it is the reason that the medical is the reason that the player didn't sign for us, I think it's a very interesting stance from the club to accept the message going out that that it was the player's choice. Because what happened is Richard Cowley, he would only have tweeted that message if the club would have allowed it, right? And everyone else has taken Richard Cowley and then it's gone boof. That's people are quoting Richard Cowley. So there isn't any other than what the agent's saying, which aligns to what Richard Cowley's saying. It just comes across that he's rejected us. And whilst, it's a very nice thing for the club to do for the player to not, ruin his career, fair enough. That's a really nice thing. And, it looks well for agents and future signings in the future. It doesn't help us right here and right now. And it also looks to us that we've been rejected by someone. And people know we've got 2 million to spend.
I was going to say, I mean, for me, you just said there, I think that it might be nice that we've helped the player out. We've said whatever, we've put it out there that it wasn't the medical, if this is the reason. And we've just said that he's turned us down. I actually think it could have a detrimental effect now for signings we go after in the future, if that is the case, because people might look at it and go, why is he turning it down? Is there an issue that the club aren't willing to say? Is they're not paying enough money? And it might just make it a bit more difficult for us to go after people now. If we're letting, if we've let the player kind of say, well, it's not the injury, I've just turned them down, and now we're going, well, why is someone from Hibs turned down a move to Millwall in the Championship, paying more money, better league, obviously, etc., then why? What's the reason? Is there something else there? So, it might be great that we've helped him out further down the line, but surely we've got to think the club's bigger than a player, let alone a player that's not even ours at that point.
Let's, just while you're on, let's bring in some of these comments, what we've got coming in. So you got Paul Donovan who turned around and said, what really can we debate about is there's been fuck all happening in the transfer window, which I agree with. Salas, now you guys have put it like that, I am so glad he ain't signed, probably with what you talked about with the injury as such. So Millwall Achilles heel. I think it was more Millwall's side. I think they were worried about his injury record.
Yep.
Also, Millwall don't pay pounds for someone who is going to be injury tabled soon. I totally agree with that.
We knew what injury he had before he came down. So that's the only thing I will say. I'm sticking up for the club here because they're showing intent. But we knew what injury he had.
No, that's it. Barry, I've done it. I've sorted it. I will suss out what's what. I need to just sort out my RAM, I think, on my side, just to boost it a bit or maybe run it through another way. So we will sort that out going forward. He's on the bench today for Hibs, allegedly. Possibly.
Yeah.
We've got Chris.
Watch him score a hat-trick today now.
Yeah, that's it. Chris Brown, if he failed our medical, he's going to fail everyone else. It's very, very true. And the thing you've got to look at it, I suppose, on a wider picture, if it was indeed a failed medical, he's got 18 months left on his contract with Hibs. If it is a failed medical, then realistically, doesn't matter where he goes, he's going to fail his medical. So at the moment, he's got 18 months left of a contract, what potentially he's earning money for, as if he went somewhere else and, they didn't want him or they were going to offer him, a lot lower deal or pays your own deal, etc., etc. Realistically, he could play a couple of games, get injured, and then he's got no money. So, he's got to look at it on a wider picture.
I don't know if different clubs or for different transfers have maybe a different level of, not medical, but like, for example, when we went in for a permanent move for Bart, the club weren't happy, right? And we rejected his medical, but we went in for a loan deal and we seemed to think that was all right.
Yeah.
Likewise, if he leaves in 18 months and goes to a club on a free transfer, would a club go, okay, well, he's a freebie. We know what he's done. We know that X, Y, Z might come back to give him problems in the future, but it's a free transfer. We'll take a punt on him. With us being a big money move, obviously, for us, in the grand scheme of things, of record transfer, etc., did we know it's just too much of a gamble?
I think it probably was.
I'm surprised we didn't look at like a loan until the end of the season with a buy clause at the end of the season, because that works for all parties. Then it means we get an opportunity to test him out and to give him 20 games in the Championship, see what his knee's about. And then
but think about Hibs though. Would Hibs really want to do that? Would they want to loan a player out to potentially a more competitive league than what their league is, for the risk of something happening, and then all of a sudden they've got a player back at the end of the season who's injured, and we're not going to take him? So I can understand. Realistically, we should have gone back. We should have gone back and probably might have gone back and said, well, listen, we don't mind taking him, but it's going to be on this deal. And they might have turned around and said, no. Let's get a couple of these. Let's catch up with the comments, and then we can carry on with Millwall Killings. Why would he reject Millwall? Doesn't make sense. He's playing in the SPL. Championship is a better platform and level, unless you're moving to Celtic at Rangers. Yeah, there is that, but don't forget he did bring a fucking great suitcase down with him. And realistically, if you were only coming down to turn people down or to play an agent game, would you have really brought a huge, great big suitcase? And maybe he flew back into Glasgow just to sort of play the game, as to say. We're going to Barry. I was very surprised. He was so highly advertised. We were speaking to him. I believe the medical picked something up. 2.5 is small fry in modern times for a player with ability. Yeah, I agree with that. It might be the structure of the wages or guaranteed salary and bonus.
Yeah.
Joshua, what do you think the rest of the window will go? Teams know we have 2 million to spend. I think we might panic. We'll come back to you in that question in 2 seconds. Did the new player Boslet in coming, or was it injury and just come up with the story to protect the player from a move? I think possibly that. And the last comment for now would be, I think Millwall were wary. Mason Bennett, Tom Bradshaw, players like that have got injury records. Had last season, Freeman on loan was injured. Ollie Burke injured for a while. Bennett even had issues. Totally agree. I'm going to come back to this one, and I'll go to you first, Chris. Joshua says, what do you think the rest of the window will go now, considering that teams now know we have 2 million odd to spend? And do you think we will now go into panic loan buys?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with how heavily publicised our offer for Lyndon Dykes was, and then of course Nisbet. Clubs know we've got this money to spend. They also know there's 3 days left of a window, and they know we're desperate. And I don't think the club will panic buy. I think we would, as a club, we'll go without as opposed to panic buy. But I think we'll end up paying an inflated price for a player that we shouldn't need to. I don't know, but I wouldn't imagine Nisbet was our first, second, or maybe even third choice. I think there's other players that Ogbeni, Surridge, Dykes, probably all higher up in the list. I'd love to talk a bit about what we actually need and if Nisbet was actually that player. Because for me, if I could only sign one player, it wouldn't have been someone like Nisbet. We'll come on to that. But to answer your point, Josh, yes, I think it's going to be a really touchy sort of 72 hours because we desperately need at least one. Let's be honest, we need at least one. I'd like us to go and get Ogbene, but he's certainly not the centre forward that we need. He's the sort of pacey wide man that we need, but he's not the centre forward.
Ben, you got anything to say on Joshua's question?
I think, one great question, but Chris summed it up, perfectly there. I think, everything you just said is absolutely spot on. I think clubs are going to look at it now. It's not just knowing that we've got that money to spend. It's going to be more the timeline. January is a tough window anyway. You're not really going to go and pick up a club's best performer. You're going to be looking at people who aren't getting in a squad or a team for whatever reason. So if you are going to go and get someone who's a top performer at a club, you're going to be paying an inflated price anyway, coupled with the fact they know we're desperate, coupled with that they know we've got the money. As you just said, we end up going to overpaying for someone that we probably don't want or who might be number 4, 5 or 6 in our target list. So it's going to be a struggle. And as you said, Chris, I think the most important thing is knowing us as we all do, right? I can't see us going, we're going to take a massive punt on someone who would have been number 7, 8, 9 or 10 in our transfer target list. I think we'll go without. We do need to get reinforcements in. I know we'll come on to that, but we need...
Well, that point there, what you raised there, leads straight into a question that's come in. I think you're possibly listening to the wrong live, mate. But I'm glad your wife landed okay, and maybe
Give her regards, mate.
maybe you need to be at the airport picking her up.
Can we sign her?
So yeah. Right. Is it time? Is it time to promote the under-21 teams and give them a chance, especially where we're getting to so late in the window, and maybe have a bit of faith in the youth, what we've got, who seem to be doing well in there? I know it's a huge step up, but it could give Bradshaw a little bit of a respite in certain games by bringing them on for maybe 20, 25 minutes.
But I think it depends what... We're probably going to have to go down that route first and foremost, because the way it's going at the minute, we're going to struggle to get the numbers in that we need to. We're probably going to be forced to do it. Is that going to give us the best opportunity to get into the playoffs and ultimately get promoted? Well, obviously not. But what other option do we look like we're going to have? Because at the minute, it's not looking promising that we're going to get the bodies in that we're going to need. So, yeah, we're going to have to. I'm not against it, but then I think we all need to be realistic and go, if we're playing the same 11 or the same 13, 14 players week in, week out, and we need to look a bit fresh at times, we're going to be looking and turning to kids.
Look at the Feb fixture list. Right? We've got games Saturday, Tuesday. We need a bigger squad, right?
Yeah.
And other clubs are going for it. Other clubs are making, not all clubs. There's a lot of clubs that are doing loads of business, but doesn't make it good business just because they're signing players. But there are some clubs that have, West Brom, they've got more money than us, much bigger club and financial pool. Fair enough. But, they signed Lewis O'Brien, top championship player on loan. You've got Hull, who are signing Malcolm Ebuwe, really good player at this level. Aaron Connolly at Hull. So there's other clubs that are going for it. And I do feel for the club, if I'm being honest, because when you take a step back, right, I know it's obvious, but the club have identified the position we need as a striker. And I know it sounds obvious to us, but we've all been Millwall fans long enough to know that doesn't always mean we go out and sign someone. They then put money on the table. They've tried to sign someone, break our transfer record twice in the same year, and then this happens. So I do feel a little bit for the club, actually.
Oh, 100%.
And I just hope that we can get someone in the next few days. I would like Ogbeni, but the problem is Swansea really want him, and they've just got £4 million for the sale of Obafemi to Burnley. So they've got money. Rotherham will know that, and we'll end up in a bidding war. And this is the problem when you've only got a couple of days left.
That's it.
Well, as well, Mickey. I mean, I'm just on transfer market here because I was just trying to have a look and see what the other clubs in the league have been doing.
Oh, yeah, we got some...
In terms of squad size, we have got the second lowest in the league of 23. Now, I don't know if that means players that we've used this season or just generally people that they know about are in the squad. But we've got the second lowest in the league. We've only Swansea on 22 players who are below us. So that's
Millwall...
what we need to know.
Yeah, no, that's it. Millwall Killies says, do we need one striker or two?
If I could choose... And I've said this at the start of the January window, and I'll say it again now. I think we need two, but not strike. I think we need a centre forward, and this comes on to a point as well. I'll make in a second. And I think we need some pace on the wing. That's what I think we needed. Ogbeni and a centre forward. But as much as I was excited by Nisbet signing because he looked like a real finisher, and it's just a statement of intent, isn't it? At the end of the day, he's a lot of money. I actually don't think he was the perfect striker for us. What I mean by that is I think we need someone, I've said it so many times, it ain't going to happen, Ellis Sims, like a more of a target man who can hold the ball up as well. Nisbet was just an out-and-out finisher, superb finisher, but we don't create many chances. So we need someone that offers more to me than just scoring goals. Yeah. So I don't know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but and I'm not saying I wouldn't have taken this, but of course I bloody would. But I actually don't think he is exactly what we need, personally.
Yeah, I mean, let's not throw some of these again, because obviously we are trying to be as interactive as we can. I mean, Oliver says, we have known we have been struggling to get strikers. Surely the club has more than a couple lined up as we struggle every window, being based in London. Millwall Killers again says, do you go and get someone from another Championship club, or do you look to get a youngster in from a Premiership club on loan? Problem with that is sometimes...
I think Preston have done. They've just signed Liam Delap and Tom Cannon from Everton. Both 2 young kids, and they put them straight into their starting lineup against Birmingham. So they've gone the latter.
Just on Oliver's question as well, I think, look, we all know we need a striker, but again, I'm not going to just defend the club here. A centre forward, I bet 20 clubs in the Championship are after a centre forward and one of our level, right? So it's all well and good saying, we need to go after 1 or 2 strikers. Yeah, we absolutely do. And I'm sure we have had probably a few lined up, and there's been a few names, obviously, or people that we've gone after in this window. But there'll be another 5, 10, 15 clubs, as I said, in the Championship, who are also going after strikers and in other leagues. So it's the hardest position to recruit for because of the goals, right? So,
what about Barry's?
A little bit.
What about Barry's question here? I believe we should play Vods and Brads up front. Don't panic buy. We've got this far with the current team. We just need to tweak the system. Valid point.
Yeah, I mean, I've defended Vogie. I know he's been getting a lot of stick from a lot of the...
It's all right. Joe's not here.
I've defended Vogie. I wouldn't mind that again, but is he the answer to what we need? Is he going to fire us into the Premier League? I mean, probably not. But again, we're probably been looking down that route. But it's not. Yeah, it's not a bad point. Do we say, okay, we put him down the middle and then we go and try and recruit 2 wingers instead, which I don't think would be a bad option, and an option that we might have still. Do.
It's the depth. If you was to do that, that's all we got still. That's it.
Yeah,
literally that is it. We don't even have another centre forward. We got Imaku, obviously, who's come in and got injured straight away, but he's not an out and out centre forward. We don't have anyone else. You then look to your under 23s to the point earlier, and you obviously got Tom Lee. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. A lot of people saying he should be given a go. Benny and Van Hooydonk. Now that would be 2 quality signings.
Callum's question is, I don't know, obviously, if you're listening to this tomorrow on the podcast, then basically, I don't know. Callum's question is, I don't know how much funds we have, but if we can afford it, Benny and Van Hooydonk loan to buy would be my 2 signings if we have that much money. Which I agree with, to be fair. I think that Dutch kid looks good. And would probably suit us down to the earth. So, Chris Brown, with Creswell going...
I thought they'd missed that window of being able to, didn't they? That deadline.
Yeah, I thought they'd...
I'd be very surprised if Creswell goes.
Yeah, I would be too. So, if Creswell going, do you think we need another central defender as well as a striker?
If he did go, then yes, we would.
Yeah.
Mill under 21s don't have an out-and-out striker that's ready. They've got good creative players and wide players. Well, maybe use the wide players then. If we don't have funds, then I would buy a Benny permanently and would try and get Van Hooydonk on loan. Probably not saying his name.
Just on that point, I mean, that's us with our Millwall hats on, right? We've got to remember these clubs are selling clubs as well. Going back to our point of Nisbet, we might have gone for a loan initially, you don't know. But Hibs are going, he's got 18 months, we need to cash in on him now. Us going, we want to sign someone's young prospect in Van Hooydonk. A club's not going to go, you can have him till the end of the season. January's the hardest guy in the world, right?
Van Hooydonk's already on loan somewhere, I believe. I think he played, I think, if I got it right, he plays for Bologna, I think, and he's on loan in the Dutch league. So I don't even know if he can play for another club or if you want to buy him, I don't know if there's a release clause in his current loan or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he's more one for the summer potentially, but he does look a good prospect for sure.
This is someone who's got more faith than a lot of us, I suppose. We are a proper run club, so I'm sure Alex and Gary will have their backups. If they can't get their next target, even if it's 8 p.m. on deadline day, we will try. John Berylson is back in Rowett. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I don't necessarily hold the same amount of faith as you do there. But that's more of a Matt Smith type of player. Is that probably what we need? Maybe
a mobile version of Matt Smith.
Yeah. Nisbet only scores when it's set up for him. He can't create games off scraps.
And that was my point, Josh, earlier. I think, yeah, don't get me wrong, I would have absolutely loved him because he's a finisher. And if you watch his goals, his conversion rate is superb. But for a team that, Bradshaw gets a lot of stick, and I don't really know why, because he absolutely gives his all, and he offers so much more than just his, all right, he's maybe his lack of finishing, but he offers so much more. And I don't think we can afford to have a player that just finishes.
But it's a good point on here, because I forgot you guys can't see these comments as they're coming in, can you? Which we'll sort out in the next one we do. Oliver says we could have Messi and he's not going to score the goal. The midfielder not there 90% of the time. Which is true.
I think that's harsh on Billy and Saville this year. I think they've been...
Yeah, I do.
Do you think Messi would be able to score in our team, though, realistically?
Yeah, I think he'd do it anywhere. Okay. Even on Stoke on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. I agree not to buy hastily. If we're going to spend that sort of money, it needs to be a proven championship level. And then he follows it up with let's bed the youth. Otherwise, what's the point of the academy? And we are 29, nearly 30 minutes in, and we have our first mention of Lyle Taylor.
Oh, God.
And it's a no. It's a no from me. I wish this wasn't live, because maybe on the actual podcast bit I might just play that on that one. But as we're live, there's nothing really I can do about that in a minute. So
I think he was taking the piss anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. Callum, I think it's a safe bet at this time in the window to look at the loan market, because there's less risk to it from either Prem or a Broad. I reckon you're right. Listen, I don't think we're going to make rash decisions. I think we're going to, we are looking at it, and I think we probably assessed what we were told. Don't forget, a lot of these players is that the clubs will tell you something, but they want to sell the player and hope that maybe if they do have any flaws, that you don't necessarily find them out. The difference being, I believe, is that between... there is a guy on YouTube, some fitness guy, Matt, I think it is Matt Fitness or something, who has done a Premiership fitness test for a signing as such, just basically played along with it to see what actually gets involved in the Championship one. And they are huge. They are not a walk in the park. And if you have anything what potentially is there to be found, they will found it. And my personal opinion is I think it's probably more likely to be a failed medical. But I'd have to take my hat off to the club and to the player to a degree, player agent, that they haven't come out and disagreed with what the agents put out there or anything else, because I think it will be unprofessional of the club to come out and say, no, it's a failed medical. The kid's young. He needs to earn a living. And also... I just think it puts Millwall in a better suit. Again, we don't know if it's a failed medical. We don't know whether or not his head's been turned. Speaking with a Hibs podcast the other day on Message, they said that there was rumour that Celtic come in and matched our price, which I find hard. That the medical is the last bit of the jigsaw. Everything else is agreed. Terms with the club, terms with the player. Everything is all done. And then once all that's agreed, then you do the medical, and if the medical picks up something, then unfortunately it's a no-go. But either he has a lot of hair products and beauty products and he has to bring a big suitcase, or he was aiming to come down for probably best part of a week or two, get himself sorted, and then arrange to go back. I take that size bag on a fucking 2-week holiday. I don't take that size bag on an overnight or even a non-overnight.
If he rejected us, you don't reject us to stay at Hibs. So, and that's not being disrespectful to Hibs, it's just fact. So if he's still there at the end of this transfer window, to me that tells you all you need to know. And all I would say is, regardless of whether it is a failed medical or he's had an offer from somewhere else, then I don't want him anyway. So fair play to the
100%.
club either way. So I think we need to just
to be clear as well,
and that's it.
Apparently, he's on £1,000 a week at Hibs.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're not exactly going to be offering £1,100, take a punt, come down and play for us. We probably would have quadrupled, if not more, his salary, right?
Yeah.
Don't turn that sort of money down as a footballer. There's no way in hell, and unless Celtic have come in, there's no way he's just gone.
I can't see. I mean, realistically, I can't see Hibs selling him to Celtic either. You know, they would have probably said no because they're like direct competition. But again, let's be honest. Coming back from a knee injury, playing Scottish football, isn't that higher level. You suddenly come into the Championship. My dog is a nightmare. Sorry, I'm just going to beat it up. I'm not, by the way. That's a joke. The problem being is that, you know, if he was going to come, well, I can't think where I was saying that, but yeah, if he was going to come down, I can't see Hibs giving it to Celtic, and I just think that unfortunately for him, it ain't worked out. And at some point, it will come out because it always comes out. What the truth of the matter was, and then we address it. But if he was rumoured to be on £1,000 a week, and you know he was possibly going to get $3, maybe $4 a week from us, you don't turn that down, do you? Especially not if they were going to offer you maybe a 2-year contract, unless something popped up and it went boff. Just a quick one for you boys. Is there a question what we put back to the audience here? Because we've got a few people making comments, and you know, we'll run through a couple of those where, you know, they're making comments. But is there something where we would like to put a question to the guys watching? Because we've got quite a few people watching, and maybe get an answer from them on a question to them.
Just before we do that, I just want to go back to one of the early ones on the loans from the Premier League. I just wanted to make a point on that. I think the problem that we have with that is, and Chris, you made the point of saying a couple of the Liverpool, was it Delap and the Everton lad went to Preston. I'm not saying we play any worse football than Preston, but I think there's a lot to be said now in terms of the clubs that are loaning players out. They like their teams or their youngsters to be playing in teams that play a similar way that they do. And I think that's always a bit of a challenge for us. I think we don't seem to have that bit of a link. I know we had Troy Parrott recently, but we used to get a few from Spurs, didn't we? We always have done. But I think now clubs look at the way you play football a lot more rather than is it just going to be game time for them. I think that can be a bit of a struggle for us at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. And that's probably why we were never in a running for Joe Gelhardt as well, who's obviously gone on loan to Sunderland, because Leeds probably look at him and think, regardless of performances and things like that, they've loaned us Cresswell and Shackleton, and neither of them are getting a look in, so they're not going to give us Gelhardt, are they? So I'm not saying we were in for him. I honestly don't know, but that's probably...
He'd been someone I definitely would have taken, though, had the option.
100%. Maybe that's the question to the group, Mickey. Is like,
I think that is it.
Given we've got 72 hours left, what player would you sign realistically right now that's available? Maybe I'd love to, because you know we've discussed Bene, we've discussed Van Hooijdonk, but I'd love to hear other people's views. I'll just chuck another name into the hat, which we haven't got hope in hell of getting. I think I've already mentioned his name, but for me, it'd be perfect. Just unfortunately, he started scoring goals for Notts Forest, and that's
not Ellen. Oh right. Oh, I was expecting you. I was expecting you to mention Ellie Sims again. Then
another fanboy. No, I'm a fanboy of both of them, but Surridge will be perfect for us. He's exactly what we need. A mobile target man, knows where the back of the net is, and he needs a permanent home. He keeps sort of going to these clubs in the top end of the Championship. Never really makes the step up to the Prem, but literally, typically in the last couple of weeks, he has he's been really involved in the Forest, and I think even if he was available, there'd be a queue way ahead of us anyway.
Charlie,
love to hear.
Charlie's got a good point there. Look to Holland, as there are lots of Eredivisional players that would rip our arms off to play in our second division, and also Ollie makes a good point there. Do you think front players are put off by Rowett, like the defensive approach?
I don't know. I
mean, there could be a lot there why you can't get players. You know, it could be the fact of it's Millwall, you know, reputation, this, that, and the other. It could be anything. I mean, you know, I think on football wise, I think the worrying point is what someone else raised a little while ago, is that all of those around us are strengthening, and we're not. Not saying that we couldn't do it, because listen, we are the underdogs. We love being the underdogs, and we like to go around and prove things wrong. But it's going to be a fucking challenge, though. If we don't sign anyone between now and Tuesday, whenever it is, midnight, is it 8 p.m, whatever it is, we are in trouble, mate. I don't know where the goals are going to come from, and we've got some big games coming up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the squad size as well, as we keep saying, right? It's because we're going to be reliant on the same 11, 12, 13 players to be doing it week in, week out. And if we, as you said, Chris, we're going to be Saturday, Tuesday for the next 6 weeks or whatever, then that's going to take its toll. But yeah, it's worrying that we haven't got anyone in. Again, I'm going to defend the club slightly. We obviously have been targeting people. We haven't been able to get the targets in. So I'd rather us... Well, I don't know. Would I rather us do what we're doing? We need to be a bit careful as well, right? Because, again, we do take a punt on a Nisbet record signing. He does his knee 3 games in. Then we're all going to go, what have we done that for? We've signed him. We know he's got a bad injury history. So,
question to you, Chris, because you've obviously had knee ops and knee rebuilds and all of that, and you know about these injuries more so than what me and Ben possibly do. With the injury what he's had, and he's doing okay at the moment in the Scottish League, but do you think that it would possibly hurt him coming into the Championship?
Possibly. I don't know. I mean, it's, as I said earlier, the ACL reconstruction is a big op, but it wasn't just an ACL reconstruction. It was a meniscus. And anyone who knows anything about knees, meniscus is essentially, in like layman's terms, it's a shock absorber between your 2 knee bones, right? So it stops your 2 knee bones doing that. And it's it basically means you can't twist and turn as much. That's the easiest way I can describe it. And is the Championship more physical, faster paced than the Scottish League? I can't claim to know anything about the Scottish League because I don't take any interest in it, so I don't know. But we all know how physically demanding the Championship is. And could Nisbet have played Saturday, Tuesday in February after only been 7 games back? I don't know. But I almost would now rather just forget Nisbet, to be honest, and we shouldn't have even really known it was happening. Do you know what I mean? The club haven't commented on it, so forget about him and talk about players that we could be signing. To Millwall Achilles Hill point in the chat, Surridge, good man, yeah. He would be a dream signing. And Ashley Barnes, yeah, there are rumours that he's going to be available because they've just signed some South African striker for 7 million, and Obafemi's gone there and all, so he's definitely going to be available. Is he what we need? I suppose he's a target man. Could do worse, I suppose. I don't know what you think, Ben, on Ashley Barnes.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I think at this point we also probably need to be a bit realistic. It's probably going to be about who's available more than do we want them. I'd take him. On
loan, you take him, right?
Yeah, definitely. Short term fix to the end of the season, get some bodies in. Between him and Bradders, we've got a bit of a presence up there. Then I would think. I wouldn't. That's not a bad shout, actually. I wouldn't mind Ashley Barnes at all. I'd imagine a big sticking point with him, though, would be his wages. I'd imagine he'd be on big dough.
Yeah, 100%.
Unless Burnley are willing to say you can have him without paying any wage contribution, then yeah, I'd imagine that's probably a non-starter. But yeah, that sort of player.
We've got some more in the back.
The lower leagues, it's a good point, Josh. Obviously, Adebayo just went to Bolton. I don't know if he featured in their game today. Obviously, they've signed him, and they also signed Cameron Jerome, didn't they, Bolton? So they're obviously trying to go for it and get into the Championship. There's got to be players out there, right?
But we could have been after him, and the fact that we got Nisbet, we suddenly put him on the back burner, thinking this is great, and then all of a sudden Nisbet deals fall through, and I wonder how many deals we were looking at, but we thought, right, we'll take this one. You know,
it's the luck of the draw, though, isn't it? That's just how it works.
What about
just on that geezer, that Adebayo? I remember he was banned in about a few days before we got mentioned that the Nisbet deal was done. I think I had a look at his record, and all right, that's improved recently at Burton, but prior to that, again, I'm just looking. He scored like 22 goals in his career.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's not. Again, when you're looking at people that are going to improve us and give us that last push to the end of the season, it's a big punt taking someone on from League One who hasn't got exactly a consistent record of scoring.
Yeah. What about Luke Harris from Fulham on loan?
I can't say I know anything about him.
If it's the Luke Harris, I could be wrong. So apologies if I am, but I think he's like 17. If it's the one I'm thinking of, and he's more of a sort of winger. I just think throwing in a 17-year-old into we need players that are going to impact us right now, proven to Ben's point. Jonathan Clark-Harris is a great name. We'd never be able to afford him. I'm convinced of it. It'd be $5 million.
Is he someone? Because again, last year in the summer, it was almost certain he was going to be playing in the Championship again, right? And I know he's been mentioned a few times with us, but is there a reason why no one's gone and picked him up? Because I'm surprised that he's not. Yeah, someone hasn't this year, considering obviously Peterborough got relegated.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it says there, look, Josh has come back again. If we're desperate for attackers, we might want to try our luck with League 1 or 2 with players who put up decent numbers, like a player like Adebayo. It's too late for them to dip into the foreign market, which I probably, I agree with her. What about Collins from Bristol Rovers?
Can't say I know much about him, to be honest. He's not a name that I've come across before. Possibly.
He's a sort of player. Just looking at his profile again, he's 25, young player. It just says here this year he's got 28 games, 13 goals, and 10 assists. Yeah, that's exactly the sort of player we should be going after, right? But again, would Bristol Rovers probably want too much money for us to take a punt on someone are they in League 2? Don't even know where they are now, Bristol Rovers. League 1.
I think they are, League 1.
That's a great sort of profile for me, and they're the sorts of people that we should be going after.
A player I'd love to throw into the mix as well, and see what the audience thinks. John Scott is a good player, but we would never afford him. Honestly, we're in dreamland if you think we could afford John Clark-Harris. It'd be $4 or $5 million, especially with the chairman Peterborough got. He would never let him go in a January transfer window for less than that. Trust me. But a player that is available, that always does well against us. I'm sure he scored a brace again at the Den last season. I've always quite liked him. He's not an out-and-out striker, but could definitely play on the wing. He's Harry Cornick from Luton. I've always quite liked him, and he's available from things I've seen on the internet. So, what about him? He's not the centre forward that we need. I'm not for one second saying that he is, but for someone who's available and could play in that sort of front three, I think he could be an option. Possibly.
Look, we've got about 5-10 minutes left of this, and then we're going to round it up. So, one for everyone who's listening, just give us, type in the number 1 if you think the position we most need is a striker, or the number 2 if you think we need a wide player. Or you could just put number 7 if you think we need another goalkeeper. 1 or 2, just type that in your comment just so we can, get a rough idea on numbers. But I think realistically, Kevin Meaney's come up with 1. There's a few others there. A lot of them are coming in with 1. Joshua comes back with Johnson Clark-Harris. Would cost us big money, especially now with 72 hours to go, because all of a sudden you are now in the danger zone, aren't you? Because people know you're desperate. Unfortunately, the way the media goes, it's all over the media that this player has turned us down for whatever reason, or allegedly turned us down, and clubs will jump on that.
We need someone, Mickey. We need to go after someone if we want to sign someone permanently that we've got a bit of leverage over. And what I mean by that is someone whose contract is coming to the end of. So, for example, Ogbene, I believe his contract's out at the end of the season. So, as much as Rotherham will want to hold out for a fee, the business they've done with Hugo coming in and stuff like that, they have banked on selling him 100% because they would not have to sign some of the players they have.
I was going to say, Hugo's going to be, he'd have been on decent dough, wouldn't he, at Norwich?
Exactly. They can't afford that. They can't afford that. So they've banked on selling Ogbene. So we need someone like that. I think Cornick's contract's up at the end of the season. So we need someone with a bit of leverage. I just want to make one point as well, Mickey, if I can.
Go on.
A couple of Millwall fans this morning, and it was someone raised it. They'll know who they are. They're probably listening. When's the last time we signed a striker that made a lasting impact at the club? And when you actually think about it,
Teddy Sheringham.
Well, no, it's a bit more recent than that, but it's probably Steve Morrison the second time around.
Possibly.
Greg's,
and that was in 2015, I think. Which says it all. You look at the strikers. I went through all of our signings of strikers in the last few years, and the only other one you've got to give Bradshaw some credit because he's been here and I think he's not scored the goals we'd have liked, but he's made an impact. But you look at every other striker we have signed since Steve Morrison back in 2015, and there is no one that has made a lasting impact. I liked Matt Smith. I wouldn't say he made a lasting impact. That is it. And you have to ask the question, why? What is going on with our recruitment in the striking department that it's just not been good enough for the last 5-6 years?
Yeah. I think, again, just on that, and I made the point earlier, I think it does need to be a bit of an element of the pond that we're fishing in is we're trying to pick someone up that's going to change our squad or be 15, 20 goal season, man. How many other clubs around us have got more financial clout to be able to go and sign those sorts of players without us having to take a bit of a chance on someone, i.e. going to a Halifax again and taking a punt, or a Stevenage.
I mean, also don't forget the clubs will come down. They get, 30-40 million pound a year parachute payments. So they're looking to, they've got money to sit there and spend around because obviously they want to make a push. So they'll sit there and go all out for it. And then go from there. I mean, I don't think we need to be fair. Do we need a joint ownership possibly to secure a long-term future for the club? I think the club is there, mate. I don't think we've got to worry about JB backing us. I think JB backs us and whatnot. I think the club is in a financially a good position compared to a lot out there. Yes, we are dependent on what he puts into the club every year, 10 million odd a year. Our wage bill's gone up, but again, our wage bill has to go up to be able to compete with the league what we're in. We need to make investment, yes, but we obviously need to make sensible investment. There's no point bringing someone in who suddenly jumps on a wage bill up to £20,000-30,000 a week, where all of a sudden you're putting everyone else's nose out within the team, aren't you? You've got to go within your means, and for Millwall, that's making a £1.5-2 million, £3 million bid maybe. When you've got the likes of Hull and others who are potentially going in and paying £4-5 million for a player. I don't think we're anywhere near there in a minute. We've talked about it previous on the show that commercially we are quite a distance behind other clubs, but we are going further forward than we are. The new Millwall fans coming in to support Millwall. There's more people now will buy shirts. There's more people will buy merchandise, etc., if the club shop's open. And on that point there, by the way, just a quick one, right? If you're looking to buy some shirts and stuff, what they are doing, special pricing and everything's been reduced and all that. Have a look in the shop if you're going to the Den, because my daughter wanted a load of bits and pieces, and my boy the other day last week, and we brought. And we didn't get an email confirmation. I don't think their system works fantastically well, but hey ho, it is what it is. But we went in there and they've got loads more stock on the shelf in the sizes you want. But if you go by the website, then pretty much every size you want is out of stock. But once you go in the shop, most of the sizes what you want in home shirts, away shirts, the third away and all of that are pretty much in the shop. So, I would say that if you go to Millwall or you can get near there and you want something, have a look in the shop. Don't necessarily trust what the website's telling you. As long as you don't want anything printed, because I don't think they've got any letters, but hey ho, that part of it never really changes, does it? So you can't have Fleming. I don't think they've got enough M's and all that, but no. But look, gents, we're gonna look to bring this in. Go on in, Ben. What you got to say?
One more player that I know we got linked with was Sam Noon from Exeter. What's happened?
Yeah.
Anything with that? Was it hearsay? Was it?
I don't know. The trouble is that the club now are very, very tight-lipped. I mean, we've approached the club a few times, or we approached them once over transfer, and we were told, we don't make comments on this. And that's it, which is fair enough. They don't. We're now looking at a different approach where we try and get our information. We look at going to agents and approach agents directly. We approached Nisbet's agent and we're told that he's in London. He's going to be going to the club and having a medical, etc., etc. So we know he was here. We know he was at the club on Thursday, I think it was. We know that as far as we were told, that the deal was pretty much going to be nailed on, and then obviously it crashed and burned. So it sort of points to our information that something else come up there rather than him change his mind. Kevin's come up with a good point just before we do look to end it. We need a business model like Brentford. Yeah, we do, but we don't have the money to make that. I don't know if the club, if JB or the board would actually invest 20-30 million pound maybe to really do. But saying that, we are looking to have a new training ground. Once that's all up and running and we've got a state of the art, then potentially we can attract a better class of younger player and potentially have them doing better and bedding. But it doesn't matter how good our academies are unless we start bedding some of these players, because if we don't bed them in, no one's going to see them.
But there are players out there. And as much as I defend the club, I really do on this particular window. There are clubs out there. There are other players out there. Colton Morris was. I'm sorry, if Luton can afford him, we can. And he, I think he signed for them for, was it 1.5 million. He's one of the best strikers in the Championship at the minute, and he's probably worth you'd have to pay like 5 million for him. So there are players out there that you can find value in, and for clubs like us, it is going to be lower leagues, it is going to be foreign leagues. It is refreshing to see us look in these other leagues. Like you go back the first couple of windows under Rail, we just signed his old mates, didn't we? Like Bennett, Malone, Woods, Clifton players that Evans, players that he knew. At least we are now starting to actually try and look for value.
That's it.
It's getting better, but it's a little late, isn't it?
Well, let's bring this to a close then, gents. If you want to listen back to this, it will be out as a podcast come tomorrow morning. We'll start with you, Ben. A minute, 2 minutes, whatever. What's your final thoughts and your take on the current situation of our transfer window? And then I'll come to you next, Chris.
Current situation is, I think at the minute as it stands, we're well short of what we need to make that final push for the top six. I think it's been refreshing to see us actually make some serious bids in for players, whether it been Dykes or Nisbet. I, for one, was very... I questioned whether we even had that money to be able to put bids in like we have done, so it's nice that we're doing that. Obviously, it's a shame that it's fallen through, but there's obviously a reason behind it. We're speculating on that front. For me, I think I said it on the pod a week or so ago, we still need at least 2 in. It's going to be tough to do it now, I think. But, we still need a couple in. I hope we can. I don't know who they are going to be, but I'm sure the club have got their other targets. Are they going to be our top few that we have targeted or mapped out for this window? No, but if we're going to make a push, as I said, we're going to need to get a couple in. So hopefully we can get a couple done, whether they're loan deals or, our lower targets. But hopefully we can. on the kid front, I'm not convinced that's the best way to go just for this season. I think if we're going to make a serious push, bringing the kids in and asking them to play a lot of football for the rest of the year, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, no, I agree. Chris, final words, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Ben just said, to be honest. I think it is really refreshing to see us, as I say, branch out from just trying to sign Rowett's mates. So you've got to give the club and Alex Aldridge credit for that. And JB for backing us, although it didn't work out the way we wanted it. We definitely need a couple of players in. Who they'll be, I don't know. I'd love us to sign Ogbene as one of them. And I think if we don't, February's going to be a real test for us, Saturday, Tuesday. And I think we'll be lucky to finish 10th if we don't bring the players in. And it's a shame because I think if you look at the Championship, I think it's our best chance for a long time. And I know that's easy to say every season, but the clubs that are going to come down from the Premier League next year are going to be stronger than the ones that did this year. And you're going to have teams like Middlesbrough, West Brom, that have got consistency and continuity with a manager and performing at a much better level, and Norwich that are going to be competing right at the top end. And they all had bad starts. So they're kind of already starting on a negative. So it's a shame because I think it's a real opportunity for us. Can't blame the club, they've tried. And it's just going to be an interesting 72 hours, I think.
I totally agree with you. And you know, realistically, we'll probably end on there. I mean, we've come a long way from being happy to stay in the division to pushing for the playoffs every season. I agree with you.
Yep.
But we do need to make, a heavy investment. Is it Millwall's fault that Nisbet fell through? Listening to the rumours and reading between the lines, I don't think it is. I think there's more to play there than what we probably know and what we'll probably ever find out, if I'm honest with you. But listen, we've got 72 hours to go within the transfer window of the January transfer window. And let's not kid ourselves. It's Millwall we're talking about. We've followed Millwall for years. We are Millwall fans. We know the ups and downs. And this is just how it is. We will pull out someone. We'll get someone probably like Taylor Fletcher or Monhofer, someone like that. We'll get someone in probably, no doubt. But we wouldn't want it any other way. We're going into probably the hardest part of the season next month, and it's going to be hard. But we prefer being the underdog. And you know what? I think that's what makes us Millwall. And we know what we are. We know who we are. And people don't like us for a reason. And we don't fucking care. So that is from us. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. This will be out as a podcast tomorrow. Sorry that the Spaces side of it didn't work. My computer isn't up for it. We will figure out a way of making it work going forward. But thank you very much for Chris. Thank you very much for Ben for joining us this afternoon. And if you want to continue the conversation, then please, on the post we put out on Twitter, advertising this show, get involved in that, get involved in Facebook, get involved in YouTube, wherever you want to do. And we will try and answer as many of these comments what come after we stop the show now and see if we can continue on. We should have another show out within the next couple of days going into this a bit more detail with the whole panel. But yeah, thank you very much. And hopefully you like this, and maybe it's something to look forward to on match day. Going forward, might do something around these live shows over a weekend. So yeah, thanks gents. Been a pleasure as always. Thank you for your insight, Chris, into the knee injury, as he's done his a few times. And Ben, thanks very much, mate, for being our Northern correspondent. With bright sunshine out your window at the back of you, do you know what I mean? When it's fucking pissy and grey.
First time since I moved up here, mate, it hasn't been raining, so.
There you go. Right, that's it from us. If you are watching us on YouTube, just before you do click off, just press that subscribe button, click the bell. I think that's what all good streamers say. Other than that, we are That Millwall Podcast. Make sure to follow us. Keep watching us. Loads of back episodes if you like the show. And we'll see you again for the next one. That's it from us. We'll see you again very, very soon. Come on, Millwall.